Hello everyone, welcome to the next lecture. In this lecture, we are going to discuss Parekh theorem for context-free languages. Here CFL means context-free languages, and it is different from the undecidability problem that we have covered in the previous lectures like halting, PCP or Rice's theorem. So Parekh theorem is based on a special property of context-free language that we are going to discuss in this session. So let's start the discussion with an example of Parekh theorem. Means then firstly we will be covering an example, because after example it will be easier for you to understand the concept. Okay, so let's start with an easy example as this. We are given with a context free language or CFLL with this condition, means number of zeros followed by same number of ones. Now all the zeros must number greater than equal to 1. Same way all the ones must be numbered greater than equal to 1, and the number of 0 and number of ones must be equal, and zeros must be followed by same number of ones. So this is the requirement of this particular language. So based on this language, according to the Parekh theorem, we have to just check the count of every input symbol in the string in the language. So here the input symbols are, if we talk about the input symbols are zeros and ones, and the Parekh theorem is all about the count of every symbol, count of every input symbol in the given string. So if we have the string, or let's discuss this in general term first, then we will be taking an example of the string. So here the number of zeros denoted by n of 0 must be n, same way number of ones must be n, and number of 0 must be equal to number of 1. So this is the condition for every string that belongs to this language, right? So based on this condition, we can check the strings for this language as taking an example. So here we have taken this string. So W is 000 followed by 111. Now here the number of zeros and number of ones are 3. So the string is having both symbols with equal number of zeros 3, number of ones are also 3. So we can say that as number of zeros are equal to number of ones, so we can say that the string may belong to the language. So as it is satisfying one of the property of context free language, right? So Parekh theorem is all about to count the occurrence of each and every input symbol in the given string. So here we have to calculate the count for zeros and count for ones. So number of zeros are 3, number of ones are 3. So based on this concept, we can define the Parekh vector. So now the Parekh vector will be defined for this particular string with the number of zeros in the string and number of ones in the string. So W is a given string, and this is denoting the length of the string. Out of all the symbols, number of zeros are here, number of ones are here. So Parekh vector for this particular string will represent number of zeros in the string and number of ones in the string. So here for this example string, we are having Parekh vector as this. For this string, number of zeros are 3, now also the number of ones are 3. Okay. So after this discussion, I hope this example is clear to all of you, as it is very easy. So we are not bothering about the order of the symbol in the string. So we are not checking for the order of the zeros and 1 in the string. We are just checking for the numbers of zeros and 1. So we cannot be sure that any string with equal number of zeros and equal number of ones must belong to or will belong to the language. But we are making just a simple check with the simple property that number of zeros must be equal to number of ones in the input string. So we are just checking for this particular property, not the order, not the sequence. Okay. So let's come with the Parekh theorem description as It was first proved by Mr. Rohit Parekh in 1961 and republished in 1966. So it is all about the context-free language. So here, if in a context-free language CFL we consider only the number of occurrences of each terminal symbol that we have just done with the example without regard to their order. So if we just consider the number of occurrences, means number of time a particular input symbol or terminal symbol appears in the string, and we will not be taking care of the order of the input symbols, then the context free language is indistinguishable from a regular language. So we can say that the context free language means the Parekh vector that we are generating for a particular word or for the complete language. So that context free language, that CFL, is indistinguishable from some regular language. For not all the regular language, not a particular regular language, but for some regular language. So this we have to prove. First we have to take care of number of occurrences of each terminal. So this is our first point, and second point is the context free language is indistinguishable from the regular language, from some regular language, right? So we have to check for these two properties for the Parekh theorem for any context free language. Okay, so next we have, so this Parekh theorem in this way. So this was the first and this was the second property. So by these two properties we can say that the Parekh theorem is useful for deciding that string with a given number of terminals are not accepted by the context free language. Yes, we cannot be sure that for the last example, as we have 0 raised to power n, 1 raised to power n. So if as we are not taking care of the order or the sequence, so any string with equal number of zeros and equal number of ones may not be the part of this language, if we have the sequence like 0 1 0 1 0 1. So this string is also having 3 zeros and 3 ones, but this string doesn't belong to the language. Okay, so this string doesn't belong to this language, but yes, it has equal number of zeros and 1. So this is also a negativity test, means we can check whether a given string will belong to the context free language or not with the count of the input symbols in the string. Okay, but if we have for example, for this particular language only, if we have a string like, so the language was 0 raised to power n, 1 raised to power n. So this was our language. And if we have this string, means 0, 1, 00 and 111. Now we can clearly say that the Parekh vector for this string, so the Parekh vector for this string, or we can directly write the string here, for Parekh vector for this string will be number of zeros are 2 and number of ones are 3, right? So by Parekh theorem, with the Parekh vector for this particular string, we can clearly say that this string will not belong to the, or doesn't belong to the language. So we can prove this with the Parekh theorem, that by just checking the count of every terminal symbol, every input symbol in the string, we can clearly declare that this particular string doesn't belong to the given context free language, 0 raised to power n and 1 raised to power n. So this is the first benefit or the application, that we need not to run the complete machine, complete PDA to check whether the string belong to the language or not. We can directly check by the count, means we can directly reject the string if it doesn't belong to the language. But if the count is same, means number of zeros are also 3, number of ones are also 3, then we have to check for the sequence. Only then we need to check for the sequence. So we are making a testing before running the machine. So it is like making a test before running the machine. Like suppose we have to some student want to seek admission for the BTech, then first condition is it must have the +2 certificate, means it must clear the +2 first, then he or she can apply for the BTech computers course or IT course or any other course. So firstly, first condition is if it is he or she is not pursued the +2, then he cannot apply. So first condition is this. Secondly, we can check for the percentage of the student, means he must have 80% or 85%. So first criteria was +2. Okay, so same here we are making a clear criteria, means as per our requirement, number of zeros and number of ones for this particular language must be same, and if the string doesn't satisfy this particular criteria, then it cannot belong to the context free language, right? So we are making a shortcut method to reject the string if it doesn't belong to the language. But if the count is same, then we have to check, right? We have to check, because the order will not be confirmed by this particular vector. Parikh vector will not confirm the order or the sequence. So we have to run the machine to check for the acceptance or rejection. But yes, we can easily reject the string if the count is mismatch. Okay, now the coming to the formal definition, if for a given context free language we are having this given set of alphabets, input alphabets as A1, A2, A3, means there can be any alphabet. For example, if we have a context free language as A raised to power n or B raised to power n m, C raised to power m and D raised to power n. So here we are having 4 input symbols. Okay, and for all the Parikh vector, for the valid string must have equal number of A's and D's and equal number of B's and C. So if for any string number of A's are 2, then number of D's must be 2, right? So we can clearly check through the Parikh vector for any given string. Next, number of B's, if number of B's are 3, number of C's must be 3. So let's take a simple example as A, double A, triple B, triple C and double D. So here we can directly check that for this particular string the Parikh vector will be this. For this string the Parikh vector is 2. I hope you can clearly write this Parikh vector by your own. 2, 3, 3 and 2. So by Parikh vector we can check that the property is fulfilled by this string, and the string may belong to the language, because we have not checked for the order of the input symbols in the given string. So we cannot be sure of the order, but yes, this may belong to the language, so it is fulfilling the first condition. But now if the number of D's are also 3, then in that case Parikh vector will be this. So the Parikh vector is this 2, 3, 3, 3. So now we can clearly say that the given string doesn't belong to the language, because the Parikh, by just checking for the inputs or the count of the input symbol in the Parikh vector, we can clearly declare that the string doesn't belong to the language, as number of A's and D's are not equal. So the string cannot be the part of the language, cannot belong to the language, right? So here we are taking one sample sample input symbol set as A1, A2, A3 up to AN, means there may be any number of input symbols in a context free language. Further we have to construct the Parikh vector as, so the Parikh vector for a given word, remember we are talking about Parikh vector for a word, for a particular string. By word we mean that the string. Okay, so we may also construct the Parikh vector for the complete language, that we will be talking in the next slide. So here the Parikh vector of a word is defined by the function this. So Parikh vector for this W is defined as count of A1 in the W, next count of A2 in the W, and count of A3 in the W, count of AN in the W. Means W is a given string. So A1 is first input symbol, A2 is second input symbol, A3 is third input symbol, and so on. There may be any number of input symbol. So Parekh vector will be representing the count for every input symbol in the string, as we have practiced in the example. So this is the definition of Parekh vector. Now, as we have discussed, this is denoting the number of occurrences of letter AI in the string W. Okay, so number of letters AI in letter AI in the string W or the word W. So whatever you say. So this is the clear cut. You can simulate this with the example that we have covered easily, and this Parekh vector is representing the count for every input symbol in the string. So this is the Parekh vector corresponding to the given input string, but we can also construct Parekh vector for the given language. Okay, so next, some concluding statements for the Parekh theorems, means how we can prove that now we are talking about the complete scenario, means how the Parekh vector for a particular word in the string can be checked, as we have done, and how the Parekh vector for a particular language can be described. Now, the statement 1, we have two statements, mainly two statements we are having for this Parekh vector that we have already discussed in the introduction. So here the statement 1 is saying, let L be a context-free language. So if we are having the context-free language as L, then we may also construct the Parekh vector corresponding to the complete language. As in the previous examples, we just constructed the Parekh vector for the given string. So here we are constructing the Parekh vector for the complete language. It will be the set of Parekh vectors of all the words in the language. So this PL is representing Parekh vector for the all the words in the language, means all possible words in the language. So for all those words, all the vectors are covered under this Parekh vector. So this is the Parekh vector for complete language. Suppose this language is having 3 strings. So this language is having 3 strings. Suppose then, for example, if we have the language like 0 raised to power n, 1 raised to power n. Okay, so language is this context-free language, and n must be less than, or we can say that less than 3, and n must be greater than equal to 1. So for this particular language, how many strings are possible? How many strings can belong to this language? If n is 1, then the string is 0, 1. If n is 2, then the string is 0, 0, 1, 1. So only 2 strings are possible for this language, not more than that. So here only 2 strings can be part of this language, can belong to this language. So for this, the Parekh vector will be, so the Parekh vector for this string, so the Parekh vector for the first possible string is 1, 1. Number of zeros are 1, number of ones are 1. So Parekh vector for this is this. Okay, this is a Parekh vector for 0, 1 string. And next Parekh vector for 0, 0, 1 string is number of zeros are 2, number of ones are 2. Now the Parekh vector for complete language, if we talk about this will contain all the vectors of all the possible words, all possible strings in the language. So this is your Parekh vector for the complete language. Okay, so I hope you are cleared with this concept, Parekh vector for single word and Parekh vector for all the words in the language. So we can have both type of sets. Next, So we can write Parik vector for the language as PL for comprising of all the Parik vector for all the words belong to the language. So here W is representing the strings of the language. So Parik vector for complete language will have Parik vector for all the words in the language. So this is, I think, clear to you. So this is the description of Parik vector for the complete language as we have just discussed in this example. Now, if we have any of such vector for a context-free language, then we call it semi-linear set. We call it semi-linear set, and if two languages are having same set of Parik vector, then we call them commutatively equivalent. Commutatively equivalent means if we say A plus B is equal to B plus A, then these two expressions are commutatively equivalent. Okay, so same way, if we have two languages, language L1 and language L2, and the Parik vector corresponding to L1 is equal to Parik vector corresponding to the language 2, then we can say that these two languages are commutatively equivalent. Okay, so this is the first statement for the Parik theorem. Next statement is, if we have any semi-linear set, as we are calling this set as a semi-linear set, so if we have any such semi-linear set, the language of words whose Parik vector are in PL is commutatively equivalent to some regular language. Means if for a particular context-free language we succeed to find out some semi-linear set of Parik vector for the complete language, then we can say that this set means this Parik vector or this context-free language is equivalent, commutatively equivalent to some regular language, So by this we mean that, let's take the same example again as we were taking 0 raised to power n, 1 raised to power n, and n must be greater than equal to 1 and n must be less than 3. So this language, so if we analyze this language contains only two strings. Okay, so if n is 1, the string is 0 1, and if n is 2, the string W. So this is W, means word belong to the language. So here the word is 0011. So this language is having exactly two strings. So can't we construct DFA for this? Okay, so if this language is having only two words and Parik vector, so if we have Parik vector for a given context-free language, or we are calling it semi-linear set, then this language is commutatively equivalent to some regular language. Means we can easily construct DFA for this language as well. Means this is a context-free language, but with this condition, if we can succeed to find out the Parik vector for the complete language, means all the words belong to the language are finite, okay, or limited number of words we can achieve from a language, then we can easily construct the DFA for this particular language. Means for these two strings, regular language, we can also call it commutatively equivalent to some regular language, right? So this definition is just the same description of this example. So every context-free language is commutatively equivalent to some regular language. So this is the second statement. For the Parik theorem. I hope these statements are clear to all of you, as we have just taken the simple example where we were proving number of zeros and number of ones must be equal, but we were not bothering about the sequence. So Parik theorem is basically used to check whether a string doesn't belong to the language or not, okay, or belong to the language. So if it doesn't belong to the language, then the Parik theorem can easily prove this with the Parik vector. Now these two statements are saying if we are having Parik vector for a complete language, then we are calling it semi-linear set, and that semi-linear set is equivalent to if if two languages are having same Parik vector for the language, then we can say that both the languages are commutatively equivalent. And if the we are having some any semi-linear set for a particular language or the Parik vector for a particular language, then that context free language is commutatively equivalent to some regular language. So only these two statements are concluding statement for the Parik theorem. So in next lecture we will be discussing about the Turing machine to copy a string, and some more example will be coming in upcoming videos for the Turing machines only. So till then, bye and take care.